All right, y'all. Let's talk about strengths.
I love talking about strengths.
So Gallup has this assessment called CliftonStrengths, and the stats go like this. 1 in 33 million people will share the same strengths as you in the same order, and there's 34 strengths, rank ordered. Only 1 in 33 million people. What do you think about that stat?
1 in 33 million. My sister and I think, have 2 of the top strengths together, or 3 maybe, but they're not in the same order.
Not in the same order, and they typically don't get ranked the same.
We did this recently. I think we talked about this on another podcast, but I have an identical twin brother, and we had the same strengths.
But in the same order.
Well, our top 2 or 3 were in the same order.
1 in a million, 1 in 63 million.
I keep telling you guys, I'm special.
That's incredible.
What I'm trying to state is that you actually have a different twin on this earth, Chris, that's not your identical twin, as far as the strengths goes. So with that being said, people who know what their top strengths are have they are 6 times more likely to be engaged at work if you know what your strengths are, and your strengths can be tapped into.
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes sense to me because strengths is so personalized, so intentional for each person. And so I get that, but I also think it probably has a lot to do with the boss. Like if you know your strengths at work, that's one thing. But if your boss doesn't know your strengths and doesn't put you in positions where your strengths are going to be implemented, that's another thing, right? Mm-hmm. And actually, there's a story that I was reading the other day about Katie Ledecky, because I'm a huge Olympics fan. She's an Olympic swimmer, one of the best swimmers in the world. You guys know her, right? So I guess that in 2011, her coach was watching her swim and suggested that she change her stroke a little bit to match more like the gallup of Michael Phelps. And it was something that she hadn't been doing. She tweaked her stroke back then because her coach saw something in her, saw a strength in her that maybe they could capitalize on. And because she switched her stroke, she's now one of the most decorated female athletes in the world. Phenomenal, right?
I would be so curious what that coach's top strengths are, because in my mind, they have either maximizer or developer, maybe strategic.
Yeah.
But yeah, that maximizer thing where it's like, hey, if you change this very small incremental thing, it will yield an amazing outcome.
Yeah.
That brings so much joy to a maximizer, for example, but also a developer too, right? You're excited about seeing the growth in someone.
Right.
Side thought, but
no, totally.
I'd love to know the coach's strengths.
I was, it reminds me of a story with Andre Agassi and his coach. And his coach told him one day, hey, Andre, I want you to move more quickly around the core. And so Andre started picking up the pace and running faster. And his coach stopped him and said, Andre, I didn't say run faster. When you run faster, you run harder. I want you to run more delicately and more quickly. Which is more on your toes, which is a better thing to be in tennis. And so just because you were fast in tennis didn't mean you were prepared when you got in position for the shot. So when he ran more on his toes, he got better prepared for the shots. And he's like, I started running more quickly to things and not necessarily more faster. And I thought that was always interesting. Yeah. And I was like, boy, that's the nuances between like professional athletes and us, because I'm like, I don't know the difference. But he knew the difference and his coach knew the difference. And when he did that, it changed everything. Andre Agassi won multiple Grand Slam events as a result of it.
Yeah, totally. But if you take that and you apply it to a corporate setting or nonprofit or whoever might happen to use strengths and iAlign, what you get is someone who sees somebody's strength and sees their potential and tweaks it in order to meet their potential. So,
what's interesting to me that iAlign can be extremely helpful with for a lot of people is a lot of times people come to me and they've hired someone new and they're like, oh, they're not going to work out, or they're frustrating. And you're like, they've only been here like 3 months, 6 months. Are you frustrated because they don't know it all, or they don't, they haven't like risen to the occasion yet in their first 3 months on the job or 6 months on the job, or even in their first year? And I feel like a tool like iAlign or any kind of tool that would help a young team member kind of grow and mature, or a leader help them, will be powerful, because you don't want them to leave. You don't want to get frustrated. It's sometimes we just give up too quickly, and it's usually because we don't have the right tools at our disposal to kind of help us and help them grow.
Yeah. Not only that, but turnover costs companies a lot of money.
Right.
And a lot of times we just get frustrated with the person thinking that they're not a good fit, instead of investing into coaching that person and helping them become the right person. Like I've been told before at a job, hey, you're on the team not because of a specific role, but because we want you on the team. They recognized I had potential, and then their job became to try to find the right fit for me. Now, I know that that's not every company. Some companies are bigger, but what do you think about that? Like, is that something that iAlign Strengths Theory could do?
Well, one of the things that I think might be fun for our audience is to maybe just share our top 3 strengths. And I want to do this exercise because I want to share a point after that. So if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so ideation is one of them. Ideation, and then I have woo, and then I have strategic.
Awesome. And how about you?
Positivity, strategic, and woo.
And I have futuristic, maximizer, and significance. And so the reason I share that is when we think about work and our work being judged maybe by our supervisor or manager, the success of our work is often from the bias of your boss's strengths. So imagine that you have an employee who is, let's say they're not playing nice with others because they are so focused on just getting the work done and they have a passion for execution and getting things executed on, right? Or maybe they're just not super relational and building depth of relationships with other people. All of those biases around like, oh, why does this person not perform the way I want them to, is often because of the manager's strengths bias towards their employee, but also the employee up to the manager too. So I love that iAlign tries to call all of that out, see that in a very transparent way, so you can better manage how do I navigate this person based on how they see the world.
That's a good point. You can identify, we may be the opposite in this. You might have someone whose top strength is your number 34, but you can identify that, and then you can help to tweak your coaching style, which I really believe is important. Coming from the athletic world, you always tweak your coaching style to the athlete and what's going to motivate them. And then obviously the athlete has to be respectful and change their...
Let me ask you too, because I feel like some of this stuff seems like common sense. Why do so many companies struggle to have any type of progress-based software or any type of performance review? Or, they'll say, man, we've made it to 1 million, we've made it to 10 million, or whatever the number is, and we're having a tough time scaling up. And they ignore the fact that turnover is so high, and they're constantly prepaying to do this instead of teaching their team, growing their team, building their team. We know it's helpful. We see the numbers, we see the percentages, but why do so many leaders in companies struggle with actually putting something in place to do it?
I think people don't know where to start sometimes. Like, there's so many different things that they're doing on any given day that when do you carve out time to focus on that? And I think a lot of people really do need help. They don't know that things like iAlign exist. They don't know that there are options for them out there.
Well, and I think that's why like the personality assessment industry is so fun for employers to kind of integrate across their organization, right? So like we all have our favorite personality assessments like DISC and Strengths, and I got certified recently in Hogan Assessment, which is Strengths, but also the dark side of your strengths, if you will, which is fun. Side. It's so dramatic. I love it. Or, Enneagram, for example, right? I think what's really cool for people who take those assessments is like that revelation of like, wow, I better understand myself. Wow, I better understand my colleague. And so I think that's where, bringing it back to your point of like, where do I start with all of that, right? And so for us, it's kind of like iAlign, while we love strengths, we also want to be like personality assessment agnostic, where we're like, you know what, any ahas that your employees are coming to really be a great team, an empowered team that's working towards your company objectives, we want to capture that in one place, an ecosystem for people. And that's one really cool thing that iAlign tries to offer to anyone that we partner with.
Yes, and that includes skills as well, right? Like if your company requires specific skills, you can use those as opposed to strengths or working genius or whatever it is.
Absolutely. When you think about any job that you're working on, it's about your career growth, your career development. And one of the things that can be really helpful is being able to call it like, hey, if you're in a manager role, I really want you to be growing in the skill of leadership. How do you lead people really well? Or maybe it is in your time management abilities or your critical thinking or creative skills, like whatever it is, right? And I think that's what's cool about our targets is you can tag them with the skills that you're purposefully growing and developing, and also get 360 feedback on how those skills are being used within your respective job. Mm-hmm. So we do try and make it very holistic across the entirety of an employee and who they are, their strengths, their personality, what they're contributing to the organization through a job description. Yeah. We try and include all of that.
It's awesome. I mean, I know that all managers want to be good managers. I hope you want to be the coach that produces Andrea Agassi. You want to be the coach that produces Katie Ledecky. And that takes a lot of time and intention, but we hope that tools like this, like iAlign, will help you become the coach that can notice what needs to change, know people's strengths, and adjust accordingly so you can produce the best possible work and the best possible people, because we're all about people development here. And so if you are interested in becoming one of the best coaches out there, we really recommend iAlign. Obviously, we're here, we're for it, and we would love to answer any questions you have.